When the Los Angeles Lakers and Toronto Raptors matched up on January 22, 2006, there was seemingly little reason to watch. You could surely find something better to do with your Sunday night than watch a game between a mediocre Lakers team and a Raptors team that would have killed to even sniff mediocrity at the time. Gripping television, right? Well, actually, yeah, right. Because one of the players in that game was Kobe Bean Bryant. And though his team was no longer competing on the game's biggest stage, Bryant individually was on another level that season. The way Kobe was scoring during the 2005-2006 campaign, every Lakers game offered a chance to watch history. And on that Sunday night in January, good God did Kobe Bryant deliver, turning in an unforgettable performance that established the modern era benchmark for single game dominance. Though the Lakers and Raptors entered the game miles apart in quality and relevance, it's fair to say neither team was happy about how their seasons were going. In year 2 of the Lakers' post-Shaq era, Kobe and Phil Jackson found themselves trying to summon wine from a roster of water. After missing the playoffs the previous year, the Lakers were at least back in the mix halfway through the 2005-2006 campaign, but it wasn't pretty. The Lakers were barely above 500 and just trying to hold on to one of the Western Conference's final playoff spots. The Raptors, meanwhile, were still trying to find their way in the aftermath of the disastrous Vince Carter trade that had gone down a year earlier. Toronto was toiling away near the bottom of an awful Eastern Conference after starting the season with 9 straight losses, and entered Los Angeles for the 4th game of a grueling 5-game West Coast road trip. Though a rising big man named Chris Bosh was in the midst of his first All-Star campaign, Bryant was the one true star between these two teams, and the biggest reason why the Lakers weren't as decrepit as the Raptors at the time. Perhaps the bitter taste of his first losing season had ignited a fire underneath the already intense superstar. Perhaps watching the playoffs from home for the first time in his career compelled Kobe to get the job done on his own terms, by any means necessary. Whatever the case, Bryant was a man possessed in 2005-2006. He scored at least 40 points 12 times in the Lakers' first 40 games, including an unforgettable stretch of 40+ in 5 straight games from late December through early January. He had already topped 50 points on 3 separate occasions by the midway point of the season, including 3 nights earlier in Sacramento. He was a month removed from a 62-point explosion in a win over Dallas that matched a year-old Tracy McGrady performance for the highest scoring game over the last 12 years. Kobe was cruising towards his first of back-to-back scoring titles, and the Raptors were ripe for the picking. Toronto owned the league's 2nd worst defense. The team's best wing defenders were Jalen Rose, Morris Peterson, and Joey Graham, and head coach Sam Mitchell was still pretty green on the job, having taken over head coaching duties only the year prior following a lengthy playing career. As Bryant himself admitted years later while hilariously live tweeting a replay of his iconic performance, the Black Mamba immediately smelled blood in the way Toronto was guarding him. Yet, other than the fact the Raptors had built a 14-point lead, there wasn't all that much out of the ordinary through one half of play in what appeared to be a run-of-the-mill game in the dog days of the season. Sure, Bryant had an efficient 26 points already, but given his exploits over the first 3 months of the season, that wasn't exactly news. Raptors fans who had grown accustomed to a lovable loser type team could have predicted that Toronto would blow it in the second half. Just as Lakers fans could foreshadow another 40 or 50 point night from Bryant to drag the Lakers to the finish line. But no one could have predicted this.
And Lamar has to get going. All of the Lakers have to get going offensively. Kobe has been going, and he keeps it going with the backhand layup.
They're giving him the ball to see if he can add to it.
Yes, he does. 3-pointer, Kobe Bryant. That's what Toronto's shooting right now.
That tells you what the Lakers are doing defensively.
Kobe again. George now to Kobe. Still 6.5 to play in the third. He pulls up for a 3. Yes! James has 22 on the night. Knocked away by Kobe. Great hustle by Kobe. He's going to score. Slam dunk, Lakers lead.
Bryant single-handedly outscored the Raptors 27-22 in the third quarter. The Lakers went from down 14 at halftime to up 6 heading into the fourth, with Kobe sitting on 53 points. Though 80 still wasn't on anyone's mind, Bryant had at least given fans of all stripes reason to tune in by this point. Surely he could set a new career high, needing only 10 more points to do it. And perhaps if we're lucky, fans thought, we might even see the first 70-point performance since David Robinson had achieved the feat in 1994. It turned out that 27 points in a quarter and 60 or even 70 for the game would be mere stepping stones for Kobe on this night, with Mitchell's Raptors happy to oblige by continuing to throw single coverage at him.
Kobe, nobody helping right now defensively, so he'll take the 15-footer. Kobe's got 57.
Kobe was a reluctant passer on an average day, but Toronto's refusal to send consistent help as he was working on a potentially historic performance meant there was no way he was moving the rock on this night.
Flyers will be back on Friday, filling in tonight. Oh, Kobe counted foul. Goes over the line.
The Raptors keeping it somewhat close helped keep Bryant in the game, but even as the Lakers started pulling away late, there was no way Jackson was going to keep his star from history.
Kobe Bryant's performance tonight, still nearly 5 minutes remaining, 67 points, a new career high and 4 away from Elgin Baylor's Laker record. For 3 again, yes!
Well, there's 70. I mean, this says it all by itself. I mean, there's just nothing that needs to be said about this game.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have witnessed the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history. 79 points by Kobe Bryant tonight against the Toronto Raptors. Kobe Bryant, 28 for 46 from the field. This would be 18 for 20 from the line and an 81-point game. 55 in the second half.
With the second greatest scoring performance in NBA history in the books and a Lakers victory more than secured, the only thing left to do was let Staples Center show Bean their appreciation. In a fitting twist, the only reason the crowd got that opportunity before the buzzer sounded was because the Raptors turned it over out of bounds with 4 seconds remaining after the Lakers had squandered plenty of chances to get a whistle. Consider it one last assist from a slapstick Raptors squad.
Oh, it is out of bounds.
Ball, there it is.
Here we go. And Kobe will be replaced, and listen to this crowd for number 8, Kobe Bryant.
The final tally that night, 81 points on 28 of 46 shooting, just shy of 61%, and 18 of 20 from the free throw line to go with 6 rebounds, 3 steals, 2 assists, and a block. Kobe took more than half his team's shots and accounted for more than 66% of the Lakers' offense. In nearly 42 minutes with Bryant on the court, the Lakers outscored the Raptors by 25. In just over 6 minutes with Kobe on the bench, Toronto was +7. Making the moment more surreal was that this legendary performance would mark the only occasion Bryant's grandmother watched her grandson live as a Laker, and that the game took place on Kobe's late grandfather's birthday. Though Bryant would win 2 more championships in his career for a grand total of 5, and would add countless more memories to his iconic resume, his 81-point game remains the defining performance and number of his legacy. It's become part of an almost unfair benchmark used by the most fervent Kobe stans when comparing their hero against the other greats of his generation. It's the perfect encapsulation of the gusto and by any means necessary attitude Kobe played with. The compulsive drive that both fueled the Lakers' pursuit of championships, but also alienated teammates over the years. And it continues to provide fantastic content, unless of course you are on the receiving end of those 81 points.
A drink, Mr. Bryant?
Yeah, I have a vodka martini.
How many olives would you like?
81.
As emblematic as that performance was for Bryant individually, and the Lakers as an institution built on his singular talent, it was also a fitting metaphor for the team on the other side of the court. Long before the Raptors were remodeled into a perennial contender and model NBA franchise, being on the losing end of Bryant's most famous performance was unfortunately also the perfect embodiment of Toronto's time in the association. A woe-begone team wandering the NBA wilderness simply to be reminded there are haves and have-nots. Though postseason disappointments also played a part, Ask any Raptors non-believer before 2019 why they could never envision Canada's team hoisting Larry O'B one day, and Bryant's 81 would surely come up. That night played an outsized role in the collective trauma of Raptors fans, and contributed in a big way towards the team's reputation as eternal losers. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, that momentous night, in a sense, kickstarted a sea change for a reeling franchise, as one can reasonably draw a line from Kobe's 81 to the Lakers' next run of contention a few years later. You see, while Kobe's individual exploits during the 2005, 2006, and 2006-2007 seasons were the stuff of legend, they also got exhausting, and the Lakers, with minimal help around Kobe, topped out as a 45-win first-round flamer. That all came to a head with a 2007 trade demand that the Lakers eventually quelled by trading for Pau Gasol, getting Bryant the support necessary for him to once again compete for and win championships. More than any of the big picture takeaways or ramifications of the performance, however, Kobe's 81-point outing stands alone as a moment to admire and awe, a masterpiece that defined and continues to define single-game dominance in the modern era. That's something even the Black Mamba himself would acknowledge. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video and want to see more content like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button.